Welcome to Standup Memories. I'm Peter Bales.
Did anybody say action?
Yes.
Oh.
I heard action. And
I'm letting Peter introduce the show because he just couldn't shut up before the show. He just does not grasp the concept that you don't talk to me or to our guest, our very special guest, because everything is fodder for the show. And we've been doing this a long time, so we got to fill up all this time. So anything wasted comes up, but he doesn't get the concept.
I get the concept. I said hello.
It reminded me of my friend Red. This is Rory Rosegarten. Why don't you introduce the guest?
Okay. This is Standup Memories. I'm Peter Bales. You're Jackie Martling. Just real quick.
I know all of that one. Oh, so far I know everything you said.
We have a special guest, and I mean special, Rory Rosegarten, the CEO, the president, the big cheese at the famous Conversation Company Limited. And this is, when you talk about a manager of comedians, and this is Stand-Up Memories, you're talking Rory Rosegarten, and we got him here. Right, Jackie?
He's right over there.
He's right there.
I'm right here.
Right here.
First, I'm going to explain that Peter doesn't get the concept, and Rory, of course, does, but we do this all the time, that you don't want to waste anything, but he just doesn't grasp a concept, and he's a teacher. And a teacher should be able to grasp not a fact, or it's a concept, and this is great. Do you remember Red McCready? Sure. My crazy friend Red McCready, not a brain in his head. When I went to college at Michigan State, Red was going to high school a couple blocks away. He was an East Lansing Trojan. I swear to you, he was an East Lansing. That was the name of their team. Like the Bayman, he was a Trojan.
Is that why you called him a scumbag?
That had nothing to do with it. It was just an amazing coincidence. And he skipped his math final and then went back to take it. So they put him in a room by himself to take his math final. He jumped out the window and came home 2 blocks away so we could help him with the math final. It's 9th grade math. And I'm trying to do the final for him, and he's arguing with me. And he didn't grasp the concept of what's on this side of the equals has to equal what's on the other side. And if somebody doesn't grasp a concept, good luck. You cannot hammer it. It's like trying to explain to somebody that a billboard works to advertise something. Prove it.
Yeah.
Can't prove it. You just got to know it works. So the point is, as a teacher, you should be able to grasp a concept.
Yes, and as a teacher, I can deal with special students.
Ah, okay.
We have a guest here.
He's not a special student. You just said out.
Okay, Rory is here. I
can wait in the other
I
rooms.
heard that he met Gore Vidal. Why don't you start with that?
Well, we spoke a sentence before we went on the air, and Rory met my favorite author I'm in awe of, Gore Vidal, who took history and made it fun and sometimes funny. How did you meet Gore Vidal?
At the Friars Club, Jack, of all places. He was there for a new book. He was promoting a new book, and I had a few minutes with him, and he was really a nice guy, too. I was amazed, and funny.
And in his books, he said things about historical figures nobody would ever say. Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, you know this, our greatest president.
He was black.
There were rumors about that in the South during the election of 1860.
I didn't start him. I wasn't there.
I know. All right. I'm going to call your parents after this show. You're really misbehaving.
I got a little bit of a wild hair. I got some good news today.
You got some good news?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's.
The bad news is I don't remember what it was.
Lincoln went to a prostitute, and that's not something you hear in 5th grade in school, and was such a great storyteller and telling jokes that he talked her into giving it to him for free. Abraham Lincoln, the father of our country. I get that from Gore Vidal. That's what I get. And I get a love of history and just
now,
making...
this has nothing to do with the fact that our friend is Jewish, that you tell him a story about somebody getting something for free, right? That's total coincidence?
No, only you would say that.
That's why I did it.
Okay.
Can we check what decade this is, please? Thank you, Jackie, for
Here's
bringing
the
it
question for you.
You're getting to me now?
Did Lincoln keep on his hat during such an event, do you think?
He had to.
had to.
Yeah.
Now,
You know what was under there? There was a frog under his hat.
seriously, I have stories about everything. You know what he kept in his hat?
Rory Rosegarten has been around. Me and you kind of started at the same time, or were you in a little sooner?
No, I started, I'm 40 years into it.
79.
Yeah, no, 80 for me. Yeah.
We'll get to it, but did we pursue the whole thing about your first client that had a Broadway show? Did we ever go down that road? Did I ever?
My first client?
Or one of your first
I
clients?
produced a Broadway
Yeah.
show.
Do you know my connection to that, or did I never go near that?
No.
Oh, this is good.
Go near it.
Oh, it's going to be great. So, Rory, you were never a comic.
No. College. I tried it.
Oh, I don't see. I never knew.
I tried it. I tried it for about a month. And
A month being once, 5 times?
No, probably 4 times. And I just
Did
realized.
they get progressively better?
It wasn't a matter of getting better or worse. I wasn't good at it. I'm funny, but I'm not funny like a comedian, like you're funny. And I just realized.
You see, he pointed at me, not you.
Yes, he did. He did. He's trying to get a word in edgewise.
Because he's older and he's deaf. Yeah.
But I'll take it.
It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me.
You didn't get done and say, I got to do that again.
No, I didn't get that. But I always got a tremendous rise and excitement watching guys I worked with do it.
You see a show get put together
Yes,
and the whole thing.
that was very exciting to me. Yeah.
So when did you realize there was such a thing as managing and helping someone further their career and being actually a part of their career?
That's actually a good question. He's so much smarter than you. Can you go to the bathroom and we can just?
That's funny. Come on, where's your sense of humor?
Do you want to take all the humor out of the show?
Oh no, it's
You
already gone. I can't
You
take
just
it.
almost did that. No,
I really want.
You can
All
phrase
right,
the
all right.
question.
Can you shut up for
If
2
he wasn't
seconds?
smart, we wouldn't be here together. Of
Okay,
course he's
now-
This
brilliant.
happened. This is what happens. When
I really want to.
frustrated
I want to
in
hear
your
the
career.
answer to this. A
right.
lot of people want to know.
Here's the answer. I started at Playboy magazine. That was my first job. It was after my first year at college at Arizona State University. That summer, I got an internship at Playboy.
What year?
That was 1980. Yeah, and it was like magic. First of all, I was the kid. My dad knew someone at Playboy in the advertising department because my father was in advertising. One thing led to another, and I got an internship there. And I went back to school after the summer. And while I
Were you in Chicago?
No, in New York, 747 3rd Avenue. And I went back to school, and then they called me at school my second year and said, we're putting together a magazine called Playboy's Guide to Spring Break. And it wasn't naked pictures or anything. It was legitimately a small magazine about things to do in Florida during spring break. And they wanted me to come back home, back to New York. They would fly me, they pay for everything. It was like royalty to interview Robert Klein. They wanted a college kid to do the Playboy style interview, the 3-picture interview with Robert Klein.
I have to ask you, this is a Playboy interview for Playboy magazine or for the,
No,
not for the Playboy travel thing?
No. For the Playboy Guide to Spring Break. It was a smaller magazine that they were going to give to the kids in Florida on spring break. Then I met Robert Klein and I was his manager for 40 years.
Robert Klein, you know what we think about Robert Klein,
Yep.
my idol. And I remember starting out with Jerry Seinfeld and Jerry saying that Robert was his biggest influence starting out. And without a doubt, we both memorized the famous album Child of the 50s.
Child of the 50s.
Yes,
yeah.
indeed.
That was his
And
first
Robert
album. Yeah.
Still going strong.
The first time I saw him, I don't know where it was, the East Side, the Friars, wherever. We were in the same place, same time. I'm like, wow, that's Robert Klein. What do I say? I got to introduce myself or say hello. I don't know whether I'd even done, I don't know what it was. But I got an inspiration. I walked over and said, hey, Robert, Epi says hello. And he said, how much is a yo-yo?
Yeah.
Epi is Michael
Epi
Epstein,
yeah.
who owned
Yeah.
my father's place, which is not my father's place. It was a bar, restaurant, a great classic showroom
In Roslyn.
on Long Island. And he was and is still. If I had a nickel for every time I had to explain to somebody that my father's place is not my father's place.
Let me show you how small the world
you know.
is. The first job with Robert Klein was at my father's place for me.
That's great, you know.
Yeah.
And I was probably there. Wow.
Yeah.
Saw Robert Klein at my father's place. First time I ever saw him, 44th and 9th, and you know that address, the original improv.
Yeah.
I was in comedy probably a month and a half, and I was there with a very young Jerry Seinfeld watching Robert Klein on that small improv stage. And Seinfeld said, wow, he looks like a caged lion, which on a small stage he was. He was a caged lion. He used the whole stage. He was, I could talk about my idol, Robert Klein, forever. So terrific. And you handled him for 40 years.
Yeah. We're not working together now.
But what happened with just doing the interview? You were that interested in him, or he saw you were smart?
One thing, I don't know what it was, to be honest, but it changed my life at that moment, because I went from being a journalist and doing celebrity interviews to here I am. You know, he basically said, okay, hotshot, I'll let you in the club.
He's
Let's see what you can do.
He's not really what I would call a spring break kind of guy you associate with spring break, but he's the kind of guy who, if it was an interesting...
He was. In 1980, he was high on as could be. I mean, he was doing HBO specials. He had done the very first HBO special in 1976. And he was doing HBO specials, but that was also when comedy really started to cook.
Really?
1980, it really started to fly.
But I'm thinking if you have a book called The Playboy Guide to Spring Break, it's got a lot of ads and places to go, and an interview with him would be the kind of meat that would make somebody hang on to that magazine so they could finish the interview. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Robert Klein came along, and he was cooking when I was a kid. He came along and said, look, this is the new comedy. He's not doing Catskills. He's not doing jokes. He's not wearing.
You say that.
He's not wearing. He's not wearing a suit and tie.
Nope.
This was something different. This was something different on the Tonight Show. This was something amazing.
Well, the thing about him, which I always respected, he was very, very smart.
Oh.
The one thing people don't realize, Robert Klein loved being a comedian, but when he wasn't a comedian, he had so many interests. First of all, he read the New York Times every day, cover to cover. He read Aviation, Space, and Technology magazine.
And was he into opera?
His wife, Brenda Bruiser, was an opera singer at the Met. Wow. So
that shower must have been very interesting.
He was one of the first guys who was really smart, who could be a comedian. You know, comedians were always silly guys, and now he was a smart guy. And he identified with being Jewish, he identified with being from New York, and he made no bones about either. And he was great.
And you could see it right. I'm sure you saw it right away. I saw it right away. I teach at a comedy school now called Standup University, and I tell the students, when I'm talking about punching a punchline, there is nobody who punches a punchline better than Robert Klein, who arches his body sometimes toward the audience to do it. He's
Now, you want to see something that'll drive you crazy?
No. Coming up next week will be Robert Klein, the later years. This has been Stand-Up Memories with Professor Peter Bales, our very special guest, Rory Rosegarten, of the Conversation Comedy Limited, and I'm Jackie Martling, and we hope you enjoy our podcast, and we hope you'll tell everybody about our podcast. And we are getting a lot. I'm even getting feedback from people. So please tell your friends, tell your neighbors, and we'll see you next week.
Hey, a new episode of Standup Memories every Wednesday.
How exciting is that?
Starring me, Peter Bales, and right here, Jackie the Joke Man Martling.
Please follow us on social media. Search it out. What is it? Me Space?
MySpace,
Your Space?
TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
Doodah, doodah.